Americans are shocked by what Dollar General is really doing. There's a store on the edge of a small American town, and it has one employee working tonight. She's stocking, running the register, and watching the door all at once. Behind her, in the aisle, nobody walks down. There are rolling carts of boxes that never got unpacked, stacked 6 feet high. Some of them are in front of the fire extinguisher, some of them are in front of the electrical panel, and one of them is in front of the emergency exit. That's not an accident, and it's not one bad store having a bad week. Federal safety inspectors have walked into that same scene, in that same chain, more than 200 times, in state after state, year after year. And they have written it down every single time, in report after report that almost nobody outside the agency has ever read. But here's the part that should stop you cold, and it's not the boxes. 12 years ago, that town had a grocery store. It doesn't anymore. And the arrival of the store with the blocked exit is part of the reason why. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly how a chain became the largest retailer in America by store count, what it costs the towns it moves into, and why the people who need it most are the ones paying the highest price for it. Because the most successful retail model in America right now isn't built on selling things cheaply. It's built on being the last store left. Let's start with the scale, because most people have no idea, and the number is genuinely hard to believe. Dollar General operates roughly 20,000 stores in the United States. Put it together with Dollar Tree, and the two chains have nearly 35,000 locations across the country. Now hold that against the names you'd assume are bigger. That is more stores than Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, and Target combined. Not one of them. All 4 of them added together, and the dollar stores still have more. And they're not finished. The two chains have been adding more than 1,000 new stores a year, in a decade when retail was supposedly dying and everyone was moving online. So the first thing to understand is that this is not a small player nibbling at the edges of American retail. In terms of physical presence, of buildings you can walk into, this is the biggest thing in the country. It just happened quietly, one small beige box at a time, in towns nobody was writing articles about and nobody was counting. Here's why that matters. Because when a company that size adopts a particular way of operating, that way of operating stops being a business choice and becomes something closer to infrastructure. It quietly becomes how a large part of America shops, whether anyone chose it or not. So let's talk about the boxes, because the federal record on this is extraordinary and almost nobody has seen it. Since 2017, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration has conducted more than 240 inspections at Dollar General stores nationwide and proposed more than $21 million in fines. And the violations are almost monotonously identical, over and over, across dozens of states. Aisles blocked by merchandise, emergency exits blocked, fire extinguishers blocked, electrical panels buried behind stacked boxes, merchandise piled unsafely high. In one Georgia store, inspectors found merchandise blocking both an electrical panel and the only emergency exit door in that area of the building. That single inspection carried a proposed penalty of $290,000. In Florida, in Alabama, in Texas, in Wisconsin, in North Dakota, in Maine, in Ohio, in Pennsylvania, inspectors kept finding the same thing. In one 11-month stretch, inspections at 19 stores across 3 states found dozens of these violations. And in 2023, the company became the first employer OSHA listed as a severe violator for repeatedly violating workplace regulations. Now read what the inspectors themselves said, because government officials do not usually talk like this. One OSHA area director in Tampa put it about as bluntly as a federal regulator ever puts anything. After more than 200 failed inspections, he said, "The company cannot claim it misunderstands federal safety requirements, and at this point, the only conclusion available is that they choose to continue exposing their employees to hazardous conditions." Another area director in Wisconsin said the company continues to put profits before the safety and well-being of store employees. That's not an activist. That's not a competitor. That's the federal agency whose entire job is to be careful and factual, saying out loud that this isn't confusion anymore. If you've ever walked into one of these stores and had to step around a rolling cart of boxes to get down an aisle, drop it in the comments. I read every one, and I think people need to see how universal that experience is. But here's what almost nobody asks, and it's the question that unlocks the whole thing. Why would a company worth billions of dollars keep failing the same inspection for 8 years? It's not that they can't afford shelving. It's not that nobody at headquarters knows. So what is actually producing that blocked exit in 20,000 buildings at the same time? The answer is in the settlement itself. In 2024, the company agreed to pay $12 million and to make corporate-wide safety changes across all 20,000 of its stores. And look at what the agreement required them to do. Significantly reduce inventory, increase stocking efficiency. In other words, the fix for the blocked exits was to stop sending so much stuff to stores that had no room for it and nobody available to put it away. That's the whole mechanism right there in the government's own remedy. The boxes in front of the fire door are not a housekeeping failure. They are the physical, visible residue of a staffing decision. When you run a store on 1 or 2 people and the trucks keep coming, the merchandise has to go somewhere, and the somewhere is the floor. The employee isn't lazy and the manager isn't careless. There is simply more work arriving each week than there are human hours purchased to do it, and the difference piles up in the aisle until a federal inspector photographs it. So the blocked exit isn't a scandal about safety culture. It's what a labor budget looks like when it's stacked in cardboard. Under the agreement, the company now faces assessments of $100,000 per day, up to $500,000 if those hazards show up again and aren't fixed within about 48 hours, which tells you something too. The fines only started to bite when they were structured to cost more than the understaffing saved. And think about what one person alone in a store actually means beyond the boxes, because this is the part the inspection reports can only gesture at. She's alone at the register with the money. She's alone when the store is empty and it's dark outside and someone walks in. She's alone if the shelving gives way, alone if she slips, alone if there's a fire, and the exit she'd need is the one with the card in front of it. Every single one of those risks exists because of the same decision that put the boxes in the aisle, which is that the hours weren't purchased. And notice who takes that risk. Not the executives, not the shareholders, not the district manager. It lands entirely on a worker earning close to the lowest wage the local market will bear, in a town where there isn't much else hiring, which is precisely why the job can be structured that way in the first place. The same economic weakness that makes a town profitable to open a store in is what makes its residents cheap enough to run it with one. That's not 2 separate facts. It's the same fact, viewed from the till instead of the boardroom. If this is landing somewhere real, A-like helps it reach people who've been told this is just how stores are now. Takes 1 second, and on something this normalized, it matters. Now let's talk about the prices, because this is where most people's assumptions quietly fall apart. The entire promise of the format is in the name. It's the dollar store. It's where you go when money is tight. And for a lot of Americans, that's exactly what it is, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But look at how the low price is actually produced. It's produced in large part by selling you a smaller package. The bottle is smaller, the box is smaller, the count is lower. And because almost nobody stands in an aisle calculating price per ounce, the sticker on the shelf reads as cheap, while the arithmetic underneath often isn't. Analysts looking at this have pointed out the uncomfortable result, which is that these stores are frequently more expensive than their traditional competitors per unit on the same goods. Now think about who that lands on. It lands on the person who cannot buy the big package, because the big package costs $11 today and they have 6. Buying in bulk is a discount you have to be able to afford, and the entire point of this customer is that they can't. So they buy the small one at a higher unit price, and they do it again next week and again the week after, and over a year they pay more for the same soap than the person across town with a car and a bigger paycheck. That's not a store overcharging anyone dishonestly. It's the poverty premium, working exactly as it always works. The less money you have, the more each unit costs you, and the pricing doesn't have to be predatory to produce that outcome. It just has to be built around a package size that fits an empty wallet. And now we get to the part that ties this to everything happening in rural America, because the research here is real, peer-reviewed, and remarkably consistent. Economists at the University of Connecticut, working with a USDA researcher and a colleague at North Dakota State, examined dollar store entry against independent grocery retailers across the country over 2 decades. What they found was that when a dollar store arrives, independent grocery stores in that area see sales drop by about 5.7%, employment fall, and their likelihood of going out of business rise. Their headline finding was that roughly 1 out of every 20 independent grocery stores closes within a few years of a dollar store arriving nearby. And critically, the damage is about 3 times larger in rural areas than urban ones, which is precisely where the expansion has been most aggressive, and precisely where there was the least to lose in the first place. A separate study out of the University of Toronto and UCLA Anderson found something even starker. They measured roughly the loss of 1 grocery store for every $3 stores that opened within a 2-mile radius, and they followed what happened to what people ate afterward. Purchases of fresh produce fell by somewhere between 4 and 7.4%, with a significantly steeper decline among low-income households. Read that last part again, because it's the actual cost and it doesn't appear on anyone's receipt. When the grocery store closes, people don't stop eating. They stop eating fresh food. The apples and the onions and the chicken get replaced by what's on the shelf at the store that's still open, which is mostly shelf-stable, mostly processed, and mostly not going to keep anyone healthy for 30 years. And this is where the 2 halves of the story meet. The chain is not accused of destroying these towns on purpose. It doesn't have to. The model itself does it. A dollar store needs a fraction of the staff, a fraction of the inventory investment, no butcher, no produce manager, no refrigeration to speak of, and can therefore quietly survive on a customer base that could never support a full grocery store. So it can profitably enter a town that a supermarket has already given up on or is about to. And once it's there, it takes just enough of the grocery store's remaining sales to finish the job. Now, in fairness, and this genuinely matters, that's not the whole picture, and you should distrust anyone who tells it as a simple morality play. Rural grocery stores in America were dying before any of this. National supermarket chains have been contracting for years. Small-town retail has been under pressure for decades, and plenty of those closures would have happened anyway. Researchers at the University of Florida looked at the same question and found that the food desert effect isn't universal at all. It shows up sharply in specific urban neighborhoods that already had only 1 grocery store, particularly places with limited vehicle access and higher poverty, and in many other areas, it doesn't show up at all. And here's the part that has to be said plainly. For an enormous number of Americans, this store is not a villain. It's the only thing within walking distance. If you're 74 and you don't drive anymore, if you're between paychecks, if your car is the thing you sleep in, and gas is a real calculation, then a small store 2 blocks away that sells bread and batteries and toilet paper is not a symbol of decline. It's the reason you ate today. There are towns in this country where that beige box is the last commercial building with the lights on, and the people inside it are neighbors doing a hard job for not much money. So the honest version isn't that the chain moved in and ruined a functioning place. It's that America stopped maintaining a floor under small-town life, and a company built an extremely profitable business out of standing on what was left. Somebody was always going to. That's the part that should unsettle you more than any villain would. And there's a question underneath all of this that's worth asking directly, because the answer isn't the one the branding implies. Who is this format actually designed for? The obvious answer is people without much money, and that's true as far as it goes. But look at the site selection, because that's where a company tells you what it really believes. These stores go up where incomes are low and falling, where the population is thin, where the competition has already left or is leaving. That is not a company chasing customers who are about to do better. It's a company that has correctly identified where American decline is heading next and gotten there first, which means, in the coldest possible sense, that the expansion map is a forecast. Every new store is a bet that a particular place will keep getting poorer, or at least won't recover enough to support anything better. 35,000 of those bets, and more than 1,000 new ones a year, and they keep paying off. Nobody in that company is hoping for anyone's decline. But an entire business has been built on being right about it, and it has been right for 2 decades running. Let's make this concrete, because a statistic about grocery access only means something when it's one person. Picture a woman in her late 60s in a town of about 2,000 people. She has lived there her whole life. For most of it, there was a grocery store on the main street, family-owned, 4 aisles, a meat counter, somebody who knew her name and her order. It closed. Not dramatically, just quietly, a few years after the new store opened out by the highway. So now, here's her week. She doesn't drive at night anymore, and the nearest real supermarket is 26 miles away, which means she needs someone to take her, which means she goes roughly once a month and buys what will survive a month. Everything in between comes from the store by the highway. That's where the milk comes from, and the bread, and the canned soup, and the paper towels. She buys the small sizes because that's what's there, and she pays more per ounce than her granddaughter does in the city, though nobody has ever told her that, and she has no way to check. And there's one aisle in that store she stopped walking down because there are always carts in it. She steps around them without thinking. It's just how the store is now, and it has been that way long enough that she has stopped seeing them at all. She isn't a victim of anything you could take to court. Nobody lied to her. She's just living, day to day, inside the accumulated result of 100 reasonable business decisions made by people who have never been to her town and never will. For millions of rural Americans, that quiet narrowing of what's available within reach is just a Tuesday. Now here's where you'd expect me to say the market will correct this, that if a town wants a grocery store, someone will open a grocery store. And here's the brutal answer to why that doesn't happen. A supermarket needs volume. It needs enough customers with enough money to justify refrigeration, produce, staff, and a delivery schedule. Once a town's population and income drop below that line, no grocery store will open there ever again, no matter how badly the residents want one. The dollar store model works below that line. That's its entire innovation. So what you're actually watching is not competition, it's a ratchet. Once the grocery store goes, the thing that replaced it is the only thing that can survive there, which means the replacement is permanent. There is no version of this where the town gets its supermarket back. The floor didn't just get lower, the old floor stopped being buildable. And that's why this connects to everything else falling apart in these places at the same time. The pharmacy closed, the bank branch closed, quietly between one quarter and the next. The hospital cut services. Each one had its own reasonable explanation, its own quarter, its own spreadsheet. And in each case, what replaced it, if anything replaced it, was a thinner version that could survive on less. That's the actual shape of American decline in the places it's hit hardest. Not a collapse. A steady substitution of everything with a cheaper thing that can operate on fewer people until the cheaper thing is all that's left, and calling it a choice stops being honest. So let's go back to that store on the edge of town, one employee on tonight, boxes stacked in front of the exit. Now you know what you're actually looking at. Not a badly run shop. You're looking at a business model rendered in physical form. The single employee is the labor budget. The boxes in the aisle are the gap between the work sent and the hours paid. The small packages on the shelf are the arithmetic of a customer who can't buy in bulk. And the empty building on Main Street where the grocery store used to be is what the model costs a place, collected quietly over about a decade from people who never got a vote on it. These aren't stores that failed their towns. They're stores that succeeded enormously at a model that only works when a town has already been failed by everything else. And it will keep spreading for a simple reason. As long as being the last store standing is more profitable than being a good one, the format that needs the fewest employees and the least investment will keep winning the places with the least money. As long as the fine for a blocked exit costs less than the staff who'd have unpacked the box stays in the aisle. As long as the cheap price on the sticker is produced by a smaller package rather than a better deal, the people with the least will keep paying the most per ounce and never see it happen. None of that requires anybody to be a villain. It only requires everyone to keep making the reasonable decision in front of them. So I'll leave you with the honest question, and it's one you can answer tonight. Think about the town you're from, or the one you live in now. What used to be there that isn't, and what came in to take its place. And when it did, was that a store arriving, or was it the last one leaving? Drop your answer below. I read every one.